The night sky was broken with smoke. Red clouds moved slowly, hiding the stars. The land below was silent, but it was not peace. It was the silence of death. The war had ended, but nothing was left. Villages were burned, fields were black, the ground was filled with ash, and the smell of fire was still in the air. Among the ruins walked a lonely figure. She was not human. Her skin was pale blue, marked with scars. Her eyes were large and bright, but filled with fear. She was an alien widow, one of the last of her kind in this place. She carried something close to her chest, wrapped in torn cloth. It was her child, a small infant, weak and crying softly. The woman's steps were heavy. Her body was thin from hunger. Her hands trembled. The baby pressed its mouth to her skin, searching for milk, but there was nothing left. Her voice cracked as she whispered, almost to herself, "I can't feed you. My milk is gone." Tears slid down her cheeks, falling onto the baby's small face. She sat down near the broken wall of what once was a home. The wind carried dust, and every sound made her look around in fear. She was alone, but not safe. The beasts of the night hunted the weak, and she was weak. Her baby cried again, louder this time. She rocked the child in her arms, humming an old song, but it did not help. The sound cut through the night like a knife. She pressed her forehead to the baby's and whispered, "Please be strong. Please live." But deep in her heart she feared the truth. Without food, the child would not last. Then, she heard it. A sound of footsteps, slow, careful, heavy. The woman froze, her body stiffened. She pulled the baby closer and hid behind the wall. Her breath became short and fast. She knew those steps. Not the sound of her people, not the sound of the beasts. This was different. A shadow appeared through the smoke. A tall figure walked into the ruined street. The firelight from the sky showed metal, a helmet, a weapon. The alien widow's heart almost stopped. It was a human. She had seen them before, during the war. Humans were strong. Humans were merciless. Her husband had died fighting them. Her people had fallen to them. She remembered the screams, the burning ships, the endless fire. And now, one stood here, only a few steps away. The soldier looked around slowly. His face was covered in dirt and blood. His uniform was torn. He looked tired, almost broken. He held a weapon in his hand, ready, but his eyes were not sharp with anger. They were heavy, like he carried a weight too big for him. The woman pressed her back against the wall, praying he would not see her. But then her baby cried. The sound was small, but in the silent ruins, it was louder than thunder. The soldier stopped. His head turned. His eyes locked on the broken wall. He knew someone was there. He knew someone was hiding. The widow closed her eyes. She could run, but she was too weak. She could fight, but she would lose. Her only choice was to beg. Slowly, with shaking hands, she stepped out from behind the wall. The baby clutched her torn cloth, still crying. The soldier raised his weapon in shock. For a moment, the two enemies stood face to face. The woman's voice cracked, but she spoke. "Human." She lowered her head, showing she was no threat. "Please, help me." The soldier frowned. His finger tightened on the weapon. His heart raced. This was the enemy. This was the reason his friends had died. This was the face of the war. And yet, he saw the child. The baby's eyes were closed, its small mouth opening in hunger, its cries soft but desperate. The mother knelt on the ground, holding her child forward, her tears falling onto the dirt. "I can't feed my child," she whispered. "My milk has dried up. Please, I beg you." The soldier. His hands shook, his weapon lowered just a little. He remembered the faces of children from his own world. He remembered their cries, their laughter, their fear during the war. He remembered how helpless they had been. The silence stretched between them, heavy and tense. The mother dared not breathe. The baby whimpered again. The soldier stared, his heart torn between hate and pity. Finally, he took one slow step closer. The firelight caught his face, showing the scars of battles past. His eyes softened, just a little. The woman gasped, not knowing if he would kill her or save her. The soldier's voice came out low, almost a whisper. "Why do you ask me? I am your enemy." Her lips trembled, but she met his eyes. "Because my child will die, and I have no one else." The soldier stood still, his weapon now at his side. His chest rose and fell as if a storm was inside him. The night grew darker. The beasts howled in the distance. The baby cried one more time, the sound echoing through the broken city. And in that moment, a choice was born. Would the soldier walk away, leaving them to die? Or would he do the unthinkable and help the one he had called his enemy? The answer was still hidden in his heart. But the hook was already set. The human's dilemma. The human soldier stood frozen, his weapon heavy in his hands. The ruins around him were silent, but inside his chest, war still roared. His eyes locked on the alien widow and her child. She was weak, kneeling, her body bent in fear, her hands trembling as she held the baby out. He could have ended her life in one breath, one pull of the trigger, and the enemy would fall. That was what the war had taught him. Show no mercy. Trust no alien. They were monsters, killers of his kind. His friends had died in the fire of their ships. He remembered their screams. He remembered the smoke. And yet, this woman did not look like a monster. She looked broken. She looked like every refugee he had seen on his own world when war came to them. The soldier's breath came slow, his finger still near the trigger. He whispered to himself, "Why am I even listening?" His voice was low, meant only for his own ears. The child whimpered again, small, weak, helpless. The sound pierced through him. He closed his eyes for a second, and in his mind, he saw another child, not alien, but human. A little girl he once knew, back home, clutching his hand before he left for war. Her face had been filled with fear. She had asked, "Will you come back?" And he had promised, though he never truly knew. The memory cut deeper than any blade. He opened his eyes again, and the alien child was still there, its small mouth open, its chest moving with uneven breaths. The widow lowered her head even further. She dared not move closer. She dared not breathe too loud. Her voice cracked as she repeated, "Please, human, my child will die, I beg you." The soldier took a step back instead of forward. His body trembled with conflict. He was a soldier. He was trained to kill, not to save. He had no orders now, no commander, no army behind him. He was alone in this land of ash, and so the choice was his alone. But the choice was not easy. His mind screamed, "She is the enemy. Do not trust her. Do not trust them." His hand tightened on his weapon. He remembered the ambushes, the tricks, the lies told by her kind. He had seen human soldiers walk into traps because they listened to alien cries for help. Could this be the same? He studied her eyes. They were large, filled with tears, glowing faintly in the firelight. No hate, no trick. Only fear, only desperation. And something else. The same thing he had seen in mothers of his own world. The will to keep a child alive at any cost. The soldier's chest grew heavy. He looked around the ruins. Nothing lived here anymore. No food, no water, no soldiers, no medics, only death, only the broken. He asked himself, if I walk away, who will come to save them? The answer came quick. No one. He lowered his weapon just a little, though not fully. His voice came out rough, torn by pain and exhaustion. "Why me?" The widow raised her head, confusion in her eyes. "Why do you beg me?" he asked again, louder now. "I am your enemy. My people killed yours. Yours killed mine. Why trust me?" Her lips trembled. For a moment she could not speak. Then in a voice soft and broken she said, "Because my child has no time. And you are the only one left." The soldier felt the truth in her words. He was the last human here. His unit had gone. Some killed, some escaped. He had stayed behind, though he did not even know why anymore. Perhaps fate had tied him to this place. His heart pounded. He turned his eyes away, staring at the black sky. He wanted to walk away. He wanted to leave her behind and let fate take its course. That would be easy. That would be safe. That would be the way of a soldier. But his legs did not move. The baby's cry grew softer, weaker. The sound of a life fading. It hit him harder than bullets ever had. His grip on the weapon loosened. His hand shook. His breath grew heavier. He whispered again, but this time not to himself, to her. "If I help you, what then?" The widow blinked, not understanding. "Do I carry your child? Do I fight for you? Do I die for you?" His words were sharp, but beneath them was confusion, not hate. The woman shook her head quickly. "No, only food, only water. Enough so my child may live, that is all." Her tears fell fast, her hands shaking as she held the baby tighter. The soldier's eyes burned, not from smoke, but from something deeper. He turned his face away so she would not see. The war had taken his friends. It had taken his future. It had made him believe there was nothing left worth saving. But here, in the ashes, a child's cry asked him to believe again. He did not answer her yet. He only lowered his weapon completely and stood in silence. The night was long. His heart was torn. And the choice, though not spoken, began. into form. Would he walk away, or would he stay? The answer was still hidden, but the soldier knew one thing. His heart was no longer the same as it was a moment ago. First contact of trust. The soldier stood in silence, the ruins heavy around him. His weapon now hung at his side, but his mind was still at war. The widow did not move. She waited, her child pressed against her chest, her body trembling from fear and weakness. The firelight from the burning sky touched both of them, two enemies bound by fate. The soldier's heart argued with itself. Every lesson from his training told him to turn away. Every memory of war told him this was a trap. And yet, the baby's cry told him something else. It told him that even in the ruins of hate, life still begged to survive. The soldier finally spoke, his voice low and rough. "Stay where you are." The widow nodded quickly. She did not dare move. He reached into his pack and pulled out a small container. It was battered, scratched, but inside there was a little water. He held it in his hand, staring at it. That water was meant for him. Without it, his own strength would fall. But he looked at the baby again. Its lips were dry, its cry weak, its body too small. He walked forward, step by slow step. The woman gasped, but she did not move away. Her body pressed closer to the wall, shielding the child, but her eyes stayed on him. Fear and hope mixed together. The soldier stopped in front of her. His boots crushed the ash on the ground. He crouched low, setting the container near her feet. Then he pulled back quickly, keeping space. The widow stared at the container as if it was a miracle. Her hands shook as she reached for it. She opened the top and pressed it to her child's lips. Drops of water touched the baby's mouth. At once, the small one sucked, drinking with desperate need. The sound of the baby swallowing filled the tongue. Silence. Tears rolled down the woman's face. She covered her mouth with one hand, trying not to cry out. It was the first time in days her child had taken anything. The soldier turned his eyes away, pretending not to notice her tears. Minutes passed in silence. Only the sound of the baby drinking, then finally resting, filled the ruins. For the first time, the child did not cry. For the first time, its eyes closed in peace. The widow whispered, her voice breaking, "Thank you." The soldier did not answer. He stared into the distance, his jaw tight. His hand still held the weapon, though it was no longer raised. The woman looked at him carefully. "Why?" she asked. The soldier did not look at her. He only said, "Because the child reminded me of home." Those words hung in the air. The widow wanted to ask more, but she stopped herself. She could see the weight in his eyes. She could see his pain, though he tried to hide it. She understood then. This man had lost much too. She lowered her head again, not in fear this time, but in respect. She said softly, "You are not like the others." The soldier's lips pressed into a hard line. "Do not be sure of that." The widow nodded. She understood. Trust would not come easy, but still, he had given her child life, if only for one more day. That alone meant more than words. The soldier stood up again, his body tall and strong even though he was weary. He looked at the woman one last time, then turned away. He took a few steps, his boots echoing in the empty street. For a moment, the widow thought he would leave. Her heart sank. But then, he stopped. He turned his head slightly and said, "There are dangers here. Beasts that hunt the weak. Stay close to fire." The widow's eyes widened. He was warning her, protecting her, even in small words. She whispered, "Will you stay?" The soldier did not answer. Silence stretched. The wind moved through the broken buildings, carrying the smell of ash and death. Finally, he walked back to where she sat. He lowered his pack and sat a few steps above, his weapon across his knees. His eyes scanned the shadows. The widow stared at him, shocked. She did not know what to say. But in her chest, for the first time since the war, a small spark of safety warmed her heart. The baby slept, quiet and calm. The ruins were still broken, but for this moment, there was a strange peace. Two enemies sat together. One had begged, the other had answered. And in that moment, trust began to grow. Not with words, not with promises, but with silence, water, and a baby's soft breath. But the night was long, and dangers had only begun. Hidden danger. The night deepened. The ruined city grew colder. The fires in the sky dimmed, leaving long shadows across broken walls. The soldier sat near the widow, his weapon resting across his knees. His eyes never stopped scanning the dark. He was used to danger. He could feel it in the air. The silence was too heavy, too still. The alien widow held her baby close, rocking slowly. The child slept with soft breaths, its small chest rising and falling. She wanted to close her eyes too, to escape the fear and the hunger. But every time she blinked, she remembered the soldier at her side. Human, enemy, yet now a shield against the night. A low sound broke the silence. The soldier's head snapped up, his hand tightened around his weapon. It was not the wind, not rubble falling. It was a growl, low, deep, and close. The widow froze, her arms tightening around the baby. Her eyes went wide, glowing faintly in the dark. She whispered, "They come." The soldier's jaw clenched. He knew the sound. Not alien soldiers, not machines of war. This was something else, something that lived in the ruins, feeding on the weak. From the shadows, yellow eyes blinked open, then another pair, then more. Circles of light floating in the dark, moving closer, one step at a time. The beasts were here. They were large, hunched creatures with long limbs and sharp claws. Their bodies blended with the night, but their teeth glimmered when they pressed close to her chest. She whispered soft prayers, but her eyes stayed locked on the man who had saved them. The silence did not last. From the ruins, the beasts returned. Their eyes glowed again, yellow and hungry. They had not gone far. They had only waited for the fire to die. Now they were back, louder, fiercer, more desperate. The soldier cursed under his breath. His weapon had little charge left. He checked the cell, saw the warning light flicker red. 2 shots, maybe 3, he thought. Not enough. The widow's voice trembled. "There are too many." He did not answer. He only raised his weapon and stepped forward, placing himself between the beasts and the mother with her child. His boots sank into the ash. His shoulders were square. He would not run. The beasts spread out, circling, growling low. Their teeth gleamed, their claws scraped stone. One leaped without warning, rushing from the left. The soldier fired. The blast lit the night, and the beast fell, smoke rising from its chest. But the others did not stop. Another leaped from the front. He swung his weapon like a club, striking its head with the metal stock. The creature shrieked, but a second lunged at his leg. Sharp teeth tore into his armor. He kicked hard, feeling the pain slice into his skin. The widow cried out, but the soldier did not fall. He stabbed his knife into the beast's neck, pulling it free with blood spraying across the ash. The creature dropped, twitching. More came. The soldier fought with everything left in him. His weapon fired again, dropping another. He swung, stabbed, kicked, his body moving on instinct. The night filled with roars and screams, with the crash of claws on stone, with the echo of battle. The widow pressed herself against the wall, shielding the baby. She wanted to look away, but she could not. Her eyes followed the man who fought alone for her life, and her child's. Each time he struck, each time he bled, her chest tightened. The beasts circled again, smarter now, waiting for weakness. The soldier's arm dripped blood, his breath came fast, his weapon clicked, empty, no more shots. He threw it aside, his hands closed around his knife. The largest beast stepped forward, taller than him, its claws longer than swords. Its eyes burned with hunger, it roared, shaking the ruins with its voice. Then it charged. The soldier met it head on. He ducked under its swing, rolled to the side, and stabbed his blade deep into its ribs. The beast screamed, thrashing, slamming him against a wall. The air rushed from his lungs, his vision blurred. The widow screamed, standing up without thinking. "No!" She grabbed a broken piece of stone from the ground and hurled it at the beast. It struck its head, not enough to kill, but enough to distract. The soldier forced himself up, blood dripping down his face. He ripped the knife free and drove it again into the beast's throat. The creature staggered, choking, then collapsed into the dust. The others shrieked, their leader gone. One by one they pulled back, growling, their glowing eyes fading into the ruins. They melted into the shadows, leaving only silence and the heavy sound of the soldier's ragged breath. He stood, swaying, his knife dripping red. His chest rose and fell like a storm. His legs nearly gave out, but he stayed upright. The widow ran to him, her baby still clutched in one arm. She reached his side, her hand hovering near his wounds but not daring to touch. Her voice was broken, filled with fear and awe. "You fought for us. You bled for us." The soldier's eyes were tired, but steady. He wiped blood from his cheek and looked at her. "I told you, we would survive." The baby stirred in her arms, opening its eyes for a brief moment. The widow looked down, then back, at the soldier. Her tears fell freely now, not of fear, but of something else. Gratitude. For a moment, in the middle of ruin and death, there was silence. No growls, no fire, no screams of war. Only the sound of a child breathing, a mother's soft sobs, and a soldier standing with blood on his hands. Not from killing an enemy, but from protecting one. The night was not safe. The world was still broken. But in that battle, something had changed. The widow no longer saw him as her enemy. And deep inside, though he did not admit it, the soldier no longer saw her as his. A bond is born. The battle was over. The ground was stained with blood. The broken walls echoed with silence again, but this silence was different. It was not empty. It was heavy, filled with the memory of roars, screams, and the clash of survival. The soldier stood, his knife still in hand. His arm bled, his breath came ragged, but his eyes were alive. For a long moment, he did not move. He listened. He waited. When no growl came, when no glowing eyes returned from the shadows, only then did he lower the blade. The widow knelt beside him, her baby still pressed against her chest. Her voice trembled as she whispered, "You saved us again." The soldier looked at her, then at the child, his lips pressed into a hard line. "I did what had to be done." But the widow shook her head slowly. "No, you did more than that. You protected us when you could have left. You fought when you could have walked away." Her eyes glistened. "Why?" The soldier turned his face away, his jaw tightened. He wanted to say nothing, but the truth was heavy in him, too heavy to keep locked. He spoke, his voice low, rough, "Because the child reminds me of someone I lost." The widow's eyes softened. She did not ask who. She did not need to. She could see the pain in his eyes, the way his voice cracked when he spoke. She knew he carried ghosts of his own. For a while, they said nothing. The only sound was the child's quiet breathing. The soldier sat down heavily against the wall. His strength was fading, but he forced himself to stay alert. The widow sat a short distance away watching him, studying him not as an enemy, but as a man. She whispered, "All my life I was told humans are cruel, that they destroy, that they cannot feel. But tonight, you bled for me. You bled for my child." The soldier gave a bitter smile. "Humans can destroy. I have done it. I have killed. I am not clean." The widow's voice softened even more. "And yet, you saved." Her words sank into him like quiet fire. He looked at her for a long time. Her face was tired, her skin pale, her eyes red from tears, but there was something strong in her still, a strength he had not seen in soldiers, not even in commanders, the strength of a mother. The child stirred in her arms, tiny fingers reaching into the air. The widow looked down, smiling faintly through her exhaustion. She kissed the child's forehead and whispered something in her own language, a soft prayer. The soldier watched, his chest tightened. For a moment, he almost felt peace, a strange thing, in the middle of ruins. The widow looked back at him. Her voice was fragile, yet firm. "You are no longer my enemy." The soldier's brows furrowed. The words struck him harder than any blade. He looked at her confused, almost angry. "Do not say that. I am still human. You are still alien. Nothing has changed." But the widow shook her head. "Everything has changed. My people are gone. Your people are gone. Only we are left here. And tonight, we stood together. That makes us something else." Her words echoed in his heart. He wanted to deny them. He wanted to hold on to the hate, the simple truth of war. But the baby's quiet breath reminded him that the world was not simple anymore. He closed his eyes for a moment, leaning his head back against the wall. His voice came out soft, almost like a confession. Maybe, you are right." The widow lowered her gaze. She rocked the child gently, humming the same broken song she had sung before. But this time, it did not sound like despair. It sounded like hope. For the first time since the war, the soldier felt something stir inside him, something he thought was gone forever. He felt human again. The night was still dangerous, the world outside was still broken. But in this small circle of silence, in this fragile moment, a bond was born. Not of blood, not of race, but of survival and choice. Two enemies had become something else. Not yet friends, not yet family, but no longer strangers, divided by hate. The widow whispered into the night, almost too soft to hear, "Perhaps we can walk together now." The soldier opened his eyes, staring at the broken sky. He did not answer, but he did not walk away either. And in that silence, his choice was clear. Dawn was slow. The black sky softened into gray, and the broken moon faded behind drifting clouds. The ruined city was quiet now, as if even the stones were resting after the night of blood. The soldier woke with a sharp breath. He had not truly slept, only closed his eyes for minutes at a time. Every sound in the dark had kept him on edge. His body ached, his wounds stung, but he was alive. Across from him, the widow sat with her child. The baby slept peacefully, its tiny chest rising and falling in rhythm with her soft humming. For the first time, the child did not cry. For the first time, its face looked calm. The soldier watched them for a moment. Something inside him softened, though his face stayed hard. He had seen too much death. To watch life continue felt strange, almost unreal. The widow noticed his eyes on her. She gave a tired smile, weak but real. "We survived the night," she whispered. The soldier nodded once. "Yes." His voice was rough, low, but steady. Silence stretched between them again, not hostile, not awkward, simply heavy, like both of them were still learning what it meant to share our space with someone they once called enemy. Finally, the soldier stood. He adjusted the straps on his torn armor, lifted his empty weapon, and looked at the horizon. The ruins stretched far, endless black stone and broken towers. Somewhere beyond was safety, or maybe only more danger. The widow's voice trembled as she asked, "Will you leave us now?" He did not answer at once. His jaw tightened, his heart argued with itself. He had given them water, he had fought for them, he had bled for them, but to stay with them, to walk with them, that was more than survival, that was choice. He turned his head, meeting her eyes. "Alone, you will not last long," he said. Her lips trembled. She lowered her head, whispering, "I know." The soldier looked at the child, still sleeping in her arms. The small hands curled into fists. The tiny breaths filled the silence. That child was the reason he had not walked away. That child was the reason he had fought like a man possessed. At last, he sighed. "I will not leave you. Not yet." The widow's eyes widened. She stared at him, unsure if she had heard correctly. You will stay?" He nodded once, firm. "We walk together, but the path will not be easy. There are more beasts, more ruins, maybe even soldiers. If they see us together, human and alien, they will not spare us." The widow held her child closer. "Then let them come. As long as my child breathes, I will not fear." The soldier studied her. For all her weakness, she had strength. The strength of a mother who refused to give up. He respected that more than he could say. He reached into his pack and pulled out the last of his rations. It was little, barely enough for one, but he set it before her. "Share it with the child. I'll manage." Her eyes filled with tears again, but she blinked them away. She nodded, whispering, "Thank you." The soldier turned back to the HFY. "We move at first light." The widow stood slowly, her legs weak, her arms full. She looked at the road ahead. Cracked ground, shattered buildings, shadows waiting in every corner. She felt fear, but also something else. A spark, a chance. Together they stepped out from the broken wall that had sheltered them. The soldier led, his weapon ready, his eyes sharp. The widow followed, holding her child, her heart beating fast but strong. They walked into the dead city, their footsteps echoing. Two enemies, now bound by survival. The wind carried strange sounds from far away. The rumble of distant engines, the cry of unseen creatures, the crack of something collapsing. The soldier's hand tightened on his weapon. Danger was ahead. He knew it. The widow glanced at him. "Do you think we will find safety?" His voice was steady, but his eyes dark. "I don't know, but we will find something." The child stirred, letting out a soft cry, then calmed again against its mother's chest. The soldier glanced back at them once more. For the first time since the war, he allowed himself a small, fleeting smile. But then his smile faded. In the distance, rising above the ruins, he saw movement. Not beasts, not shadows. Something else. Metal glinted in the new light of dawn. Shapes marched slowly, their armor shining. Human soldiers. A patrol. The soldier froze. His heart sank. If they saw him with the alien widow and her child, there would be no questions, no mercy. The widow followed his eyes and gasped, holding her child tighter. Her voice was a whisper of terror. "Your people?" The soldier's grip tightened on his weapon. His face hardened. "Stay behind me," he said, his voice sharp as steel. The bond between them had been born, but now it would be tested, and their journey had only just begun.